You bet.
Just, I guess the question now, for a ton of testimony, where do you go from here? Is there a vote going to be scheduled soon in the committee?
Well, I don't know the answer to that. I think one of the changes I think was significant, and I think Senator Faber recently mentioned that we should be convening and making appointments to the panels, committees, or whatever they're called, for parent and public input into the standards. And that should be happening now. And in essence, what we have been doing the last 3 weeks is to get to do that. These committee meetings end up kind of being more about advocates and less about communities, especially when they're all being held in Columbus. So I think one of the changes was sort of an eye towards that, in that we wanted to make sure. Now, of course, that's when the bill would become effective, but that's not something that we can't do over the next 6 weeks or so. Of course, this bill, we have actually plenty of time for committee action because the bill wouldn't come for a vote until after the election anyway. We don't have any sessions scheduled, but I think what we need to do over the next 10 days or so is really examine what path we want to have for public input. What we're going to get here in this room, I think, is probably substantially different than what we're going to get out in the field. So I think I just have to have input from other committee members, and you really don't know the answer to the when are we going to vote question right at the moment.
You're saying you'd like to take this on the road?
Well, I would like to have the answer to sort of my final perplexing question, however inartfully worded. I guess I insulted somebody when I said they might not be brilliant, but I didn't mean that. What I meant was there were brilliant people on both sides of this who were diametrically opposed. And how could that be? And the person I asked, their suggestion was, well, they just have different incentives, they have different goals, which that answer makes sense. No, I don't. I'm not saying that is the answer to your question. I think we just need to kind of chart a path over the next few days, and then decide whether do we just simply vote this out. One of the issues, of course, is that the caucus isn't meeting on a regular basis. Typically, on a significant bill like this, there would be several sets of conversations in a caucus with as many people come. Sometimes it's 30 people, sometimes it's 50 or more, and we haven't had any of those. So, I think we want to make sure that the bill's as best as it can be from the perspective of the entire caucus.
So in the short term, is the focus going to be on getting those appointments to the oversight panel?
Well, right. I don't know who makes those appointments off the top of my head in 487, but I think I like Senator Faber in encouraging those appointments to be made and those committees to meet, because I think it would be relevant and helpful to what we're doing here with this bill.
Do you anticipate coming back in rules to discuss this bill this month?
Yeah, I think so. We'll have another committee hearing this month. Not next week.
You threw 10 days out. I mean, we're talking a couple weeks from now, probably.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the reason I said that is it would likely be Tuesday or Wednesday, the 16th or 17th. So 12 or 13 days.
And would that be, again, for testimony, or is that just for the committee for amendments?
Well, right. I think both for testimony, and then I think people want to digest what is in the what is in the substitute bill, because there were some. There were questions, for example, about this intelligent design issue, which, in the original language, I think it was a number of giant leaps away from the language to say this might happen. So I think we cleaned that up substantially. Now, will there still be what I consider fear-mongering on that issue? Sure, because, the folks who are trying to keep something from happening, that's their tool of choice, which is, of course, the job of all of you to make sure that the truth gets out there. He didn't even crack a smile. Jeez. It's been a long month?
Several weeks.
Okay.
Speaking of which, since it has been, is there any testimony left to be heard? Anything that you come away with saying, boy, if we just get somebody to testify on this issue.
Well, yeah, I think there is. And one of the things I asked about today were these series of conclusory statements by a number of groups which seemingly wouldn't have any basis for making that conclusion, like Philanthropy Ohio, and so that's why I was asking, well, what is the basis of your analysis? How did you, as an entity, an organization, come and say that or come to that conclusion? And so, I mean, I think the question really becomes, and certainly, in the next 2 weeks, we're not going to, put all the standards up on walls all over and have people come in and debate them. But I think the testimony I would like to hear is an analysis by someone who wrote these standards as to why, here's an example of what we're trying to do. And have someone who's against the standards come in and say, and here's why that won't work. And we sort of had that as a patchwork over the past 3 weeks. But those are the things that I guess I'm concerned about. Now, we've sort of flogged this issue of how these came about. And, it appears to me that what happened was Governor Strickland signed a memorandum that said we were going to do this. There was a bill passed that said come up with standards by June 30th, 2010. All of the protocol or the law actually wasn't followed in how that was done. But the conclusion of a lot of folks is, well, we've already adopted them, we're implementing them, we're not going to worry about how all that happened. It's kind of in effect a Hillary Clinton, what difference does it make now, kind of statement. And, all of that having been said, okay, well, let's look at what these standards are going to do. Are they really going to work? And, I mean, we've had, it isn't just the person who testified today. We've had a lot of really smart people, brilliant people come in and say, you are headed for disaster. And I don't think this lady today was a paid consultant. I think that's the kind of thing that scares me, and I wish it scared the people who were advocating for this. But, if it doesn't, it doesn't, so.